First of all, listen. At heart, I'm a reporter and a pundit. I'm obviously not a guy that played the game of football the way you two did. And so, and I defer to y'all knowledge a lot of times. But then I'm also reminded that I am a reporter and I got two eyes and I can see. And Dan Orlovsky, what I pay attention to is the level of competition that you're going up against. So many times, so often, when we look at Baker Mayfield, and I'll make a statement like, I don't believe he can carry this team to the Super Bowl. It's not to say that I don't think Baker Mayfield can play, that he's some scrub that doesn't deserve to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League or anything like that. I'm saying nothing of the kind. What this man did in his collegiate career, before he ultimately came to the NFL, I got a lot of respect for Baker Mayfield. And that shoulder injury, for him to stay in that game and to come back out and play, coming into the game with an injury and then aggravating it even more because you could see the way he twisted his arm when he went down and what have you. For him to stay in that game showed a tremendous level of guts, nothing but props and respect he deserves. But when we think about Baker Mayfield, am I a believer? No. But it's not because he's a scrub. It's not because he can't play. It's because Lamar Jackson's in the division. In the conference. Josh Allen is in the conference. Patrick Mahomes is in the conference. Justin Herbert is in the conference. Hell, Joe Burrow. Cleveland's 4-2. Cincinnati's 4-2. He's in the division, not just the conference. There's level of talent that you have to go against. And when I look at my quarterback, think about what we just finished saying when we were talking about Dak Prescott. We're talking about a guy that finds a way to get it done with his legs, with his arm, in the clutch, etc. What the things that he's done, no matter what you throw at him, somehow against San Diego in a nail biter, he finds a way. He gives the GOAT, Tom Brady, a run for his money. He shellacks, whether it's the Sam Darnolds or the Daniel Jones of the world or people like that. He shellacks them, or Jalen Hurts. He goes up against Mac Jones or Bill Belichick, rather. Bill Belichick didn't make any adjustments. We was rushing 3 or rushing 4. But somehow, some way, Dak Prescott still had Bill Belichick saying, yo, this brother's no joke. We don't talk about Baker Mayfield like that. We know he can play. We know he's not a scrub. But when you look at, even though Nick Chubb wasn't there yesterday, when you look at a Nick Chubb, a Kareem Hunt, an Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry returning, Njoku at the tight end spot, your defense, you look at them, you're saying, this is the guy you question, not those other guys. And that is what the issue is. And by the way, it was 37-7. Y'all can go ahead and count the Hail Mary at the end of the half all you want to. It was really 37-7. They got beat down.
And when I interject here, I will use these terms because Stephen A., you used the word. You said, I don't believe he can carry. And Dan said, I do believe in him. I believe that he can also guide. I don't believe he can carry. Dak Prescott carries a football team. But Baker Mayfield can guide this football team. He almost did it last year. They were right there. They were Rashad Higgins' little pass or play away from at least getting ready to take Kansas City in overtime and possibly win that game. So they were right there. But when we look at Baker, since he was a #1 pick in the NFL draft, and we see guys like that who was a 4th-round pick carrying, we say, well, he should carry. And I didn't use the word manage because I don't want Baker or anybody else to think I'm slacking them or slacking their ability to guide a football team. The way this team is constructed, Baker Mayfield can absolutely guide this team through a playoffs. You give him back Jarvis Landry, which is his whole short passing game. That's his comfort. You get him back. Yesterday, Odell Beckham had his best game, and he still dropped some balls. So to say we can't work Odell in, we can work Odell in. And I'm going to tell you something, Dan, and we talked about this. Let me tell you something. When I too, Dan, and I heard you this morning when you said when you saw him go down, you're like, he's done. I said the same thing. I said, he's done. That's it. You fall on that shoulder like that. I had that happen to me, man. Hey, this boy came back in that game.
In the same game.
It takes that kind of fight to pull a place like Cleveland up. It takes that kind of heart. It takes something like that. And Baker has it. And Baker will make that throw. Now, sometimes you say, don't do that, don't do that. But he will take that chance and make that throw. And that takes what Dan calls some onions to do it. And he will do it.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, playmaker. That's why I believe in him still. You know, I think he's cut from the right stuff. I think he's plenty talented. Now, and the context in which we view Baker Mayfield is a big part of this conversation. Because, and I would push back in regards to, in comparison to like a Dak Prescott. I don't think 2-3 years ago Dak Prescott was a guy that was carrying a football team.
Right.
He unquestionably is ascended into that conversation. Dak Prescott has become a guy that the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl because of. Right now, Baker Mayfield has not proven that. He is a quarterback that the Browns can win games with. The downside with the timing of everything with Baker Mayfield is this. Lamar Jackson in his division and in that same draft class, Lamar Jackson is doing things that you should not do in the NFL team-wise. You should not be 5-1 with their decimation of injury. Now, Lamar Jackson's price right now is doing this. I want everyone to, it is going skyrocketing, and Baker Mayfield's price is falling. And that's the difference between those two guys.
Hold on.
Correct. Josh has already been paid. But that's because those guys, and Lamar, I think the most, is carrying a team, is putting him on his back, and Baker had the opportunity to do that yesterday with all the injuries, and he didn't.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.